It's because this is how we start. This is how we start our leadership happy hour. Okay, we start our leadership hour with a lot of joy. So I'm gonna play some music and I wanna see your dance moves.
So folks, yes, that's it. So turn on your camera if you can, just so we see you move a little bit. It's Friday, it's been a long week. All right, Muriel, DJ, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello. Love it. Love it. So we are warm. We are ready for this session. Amazing. Thank you, everyone. It's lovely to see you. And my name is Muriel. I know some of you've seen me the last time. I manage the social media accounts for Busara Africa. And I will be also moderating this session. I'm here with Taaka. You know Taaka. Taaka, the CEO of Busara Africa. And I'm here also. I'm here with Lydia. Hi, Lydia. Lydia is our program manager. And I'm also here with Apolline. Apolline is our COO. Hi, Apolline. Amazing. How is everybody doing? Today's session is on excellence. Okay, we're talking about effective ways to create a culture of excellence in your organization. This is the topic today. We're talking about excellence, and we're excited to have a guest with us today. Hi, Gillian. So I will leave the floor to Taaka to introduce our guest today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Muriel. And so wonderful to see many of us folks joining us from all over, those who have joined us before and those who are new to this space. And if you're new to this space, you couldn't have come in a better session, because today it's not just Muriel and I talking. We do indeed have a very special guest. If you've been here before, you've heard her voice because she's very active in this space. But if you haven't, you will not be disappointed. So we're honored today to have Gillian Hammer. Gillian, give our team a wave. Give everybody a wave so you see Gillian. Gillian is the Group Chief Marketing Officer for DataBank. And as many of you, if you're in Ghana, you will know the name DataBank. It's the leading investment firm in the country. Gillian has over 25 years in financial experience in financial services. And at DataBank, she leads a marketing team comprised of project managers, copywriters, and graphic artists. So prior to joining DataBank, Gillian worked for Invesco Canada, a leading asset management firm in North America with branches over 20 countries. Now, those who know Gillian know she's well recognized for her strong management and strategic planning capabilities. And in 2019, she was recognized as one of the most influential CMOs in Ghana for 2019. So we are talking about someone who really knows what she's doing. And actually, we thought Gillian was the right person for this conversation about excellence, because, you know, in our conversations, it's about putting it into practice. The leadership happy hour isn't just about theory. It's about how leaders come together to grapple with the realities. And creating a culture of excellence is something I've heard Gillian talking about, grappling with. So what she shares with you today is success from actually putting it into practice. So Gillian, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wealth of expertise.
You are welcome, Taaka. Hi, everyone.
Before you come back in, Muriel, there's one thing I didn't say about Gillian. People, if you notice a certain type of an accent, she's not just Canadian or Ghanaian. What you're hearing is a Jamaican accent. So Gillian is originally from Kingston. So we're blessed to have her all the way. But been in Ghana for many, many years, so knows the context well. So back to you, Muriel.
Well, thank you, Taaka. Welcome, Gillian. I'm so excited. We're all so excited to hear from you. You have so much experience, and I cannot wait to learn from you today. So why are we talking about excellence? Why are we talking about a culture of excellence? Why is it important in an organization?
I'll tell you, and then I'm going to ask Gillian how she deals with it and how she defines it. But I'll tell you why we decided on this topic. Too often, what I've been hearing from many leaders in my coaching practice and in our leadership programs is they're struggling with a culture of mediocrity. It seems as if people are willing to just somehow like, okay is good enough. And that for many leaders who have risen to leadership positions, because of their level of conscientiousness, because of their commitment to excellence, what they're struggling with is how do you ensure that it's not just you, but it's in your entire team that is also committed to this culture of excellence. So that's why, Muriel, we thought about this topic. And again, that's why we thought Gillian was the right person to talk about this. And I wonder if Gillian, this is what I've seen when I speak to others in their challenges. But I wonder if we could start by asking you, what have been some of the challenges you have faced in trying to create this culture of excellence?
Okay, thank you, Taaka. Before I answer, let me just welcome everyone as well and say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. It's greatly appreciated. And yes, the topic that Taaka picked is near and dear to my heart. And any team member that knows me knows that it is just, I'm always on it. But your question is really, really important because, you know, I think what I will do is I will start with two of my favorite quotes just to set the context for why this whole conversation is so important. And I would hope that if you have a pen, write it down, please. Number one, this one, I don't know who the author is, but it's one of my favorite quotes. And it says, if it is not excellent, it is mediocre. Very simple, shortest quote you will ever hear. So if it is not excellence, it is mediocrity. What that means is there is no there's no gray area. You can't have levels of mediocrity or levels of excellence. It's one or the other. So that's baseline number one. The second quote that I love and I'll share is, it says, mediocrity is always invisible until excellence shows up and exposes it. So I'll say it one more time. Mediocrity is always invisible until excellence shows up and exposes it. So simply, most times when you step into a company, the challenge that we have is that people are trying. I don't take that away from them. They're trying. There are people who work very hard, but the standard to which they work for them may seem good in the moment until somebody comes along and shows you that no, where you are operating at, there is another level or 5 levels above that. Then you have to ask yourself, okay, am I happy with where I am, or do I want to now move up to the other level? So the biggest challenge that always brings us here is that lack of exposure, in the sense that many people don't know what excellent looks like. So it's always you have to be very careful not to mix the lack of excellence with the lack of trying. There are people who try. but the standard to which they are trying, the benchmark that they have is just, it's mediocre. But you'll never know until someone can come and say, no, there's a higher level that you can perform at. So that is what really has brought us to this point, why it's so important for us to have this conversation. And then that sets the tone for all the challenges that we then unearth. So Taaka, I can keep talking even without you coming in. So if you don't stop me,
yes,
I will just keep talking.
Let me stop you there because we need to absorb a lot of what you're saying. Huh? First, we really got those two quotes, and thank you, Muriel has put the first one in the chat in case you missed it. The second one, which is so key, is mediocrity is always invisible until excellence shows up and exposes it. So powerful. Hope we can get that in the chat. But already what I'm taking away from your first point is that it's not for lack of trying. So let's not start to get all judgmental on folks. Sometimes it's simply a lack of exposure that causes it. So I think that's a good way to start. But I wonder then, Gillian, if you would share with us, so why does it even matter? Maybe mediocrity is good enough. Why does it matter?
There are three reasons in my mind, and I will use examples to support them. So one is a financial cost that is associated with mediocrity. And when you look at excellence, for me, there are always two levels of when you talk about a culture of excellence. There is the person, and then there is the organization. Most of the people on this call are likely leaders, leading in some capacity. It could be 1 or 2 people, it could be 50, it could be 100. But there is, so I'll share an example with what I mean by financial cost. 2 days ago, I went into a store and I wanted to buy a sleep cap, one of those caps that you put on. So I saw one hanging in the window. I went into the store and I said to the lady, do you guys have this? And she said, yes, they do. So I said, okay, how much does it cost? And she said she didn't know. She would have to call her madam to find out. So I said, okay, then call. Then she says, she looks at the other girl in the store and says, well, I don't have any credit. So no credit, no call, no price. I had to leave the store. And so the whole point is that there is a financial cost to mediocrity, because if you have a team and the culture on that team is one that is not of excellence, and it is really black or white, if it is not of excellence, then that is where you will get your employee or your team member saying, I don't have enough credit, so to hell with it, customer leave. So you as the leader or the business owner, you are sitting somewhere, you have worked hard, you're paying rent, you're doing all of these things to get your business going, and you are wondering why it is not growing. Meanwhile, somebody is sitting where you are and telling the customer goodbye because I don't have any money on my phone. So there's that financial cost. And there's a flip side to it that I'll touch on in a bit, but there's a financial cost. There is also what I call reputational cost, because if you can't build a culture of excellence overnight, but if you don't strive to build it and you don't seek to enforce it, your reputation is on the line. If you are a leader and you are leading a team, you cannot have substandard people and you are excellent. You are a reflection of your people. So there's that reputational cost that if you don't get it right below you, it will affect you and it will affect everything that you touch. So it's really, really important to be able to manage those two things. And the third cost for me is one of integrity, because most times where you see people, you see a culture of mediocrity. Most times you have the leader saying, do what I say but not what I do. So they will talk and they will tell you, you need to be excellent. But if you check it, they are not actually living what they are telling you to do. So I would sum it up in these 3 costs and say, that is why it is so important that you strive for a culture of excellence, not just you as an individual being excellent, but your entire group, whoever touches you, should want to or should be challenged to be excellent. They shouldn't feel comfortable being mediocre.
And I think, Gillian, now you're getting to the crux of what's so hard. And I think you brought it out very clearly that excellence, you said it's at 2 levels. Huh? So there's the self, huh? And then it's also at the organizational level. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that as a leader, it's not enough for you individually to be working in a way that displays excellence. It's about ensuring everyone around you, it's about this whole culture of excellence. And this is where we struggle, Gillian. Huh? So it would be really interesting to hear, what are your strategies? Huh? So not just being excellent, but everybody, yes.
So that's that's the other side of the financial cost. And I will come back to the same story with the sleep cap, that I mentioned, because you have the customer who walks out of the store because the employees say, I don't have credit, so I can't give you a price. That's one side. The other side is, as a leader, you are also responsible, meaning that how dare you leave your store in the hands of people and you haven't priced all your products? So you will blame them for not doing it, but you also haven't done what you are to do. If you know that you have not priced your products because maybe, you know, it's new, it's come in and you weren't there, and you know your people will need to call you, and you know you are paying them 500 CDs a month and they can't eat and they can hardly make ends meet, give them credit so that they can call you. So it's one of those things that it really is, Taaka, a 2-way street, where we cannot just blame the people below us if we don't put the right structures in place. And this is not about putting great structures in and throwing money at them, but fundamental things. Allow people to do their jobs well. So that brings me to the strategies. Number 1, baseline, define excellence. How do you define excellence for yourself? Number 1, for your team, whoever it is that you are managing, how do you define excellence? Because that is what will make or break anything else that you do. And that's part of the problem, where the leader in their head has one definition of excellence. They don't communicate it to their team, but they want to see it, but they haven't told you what excellence looks like. So the first thing is define it and let everybody know what that definition is. The second thing is, okay, continue.
Yes, before you go that, we want to make sure we're absorbing, because you're giving us a lot to do. So that's so key, because this is where we stumble. Huh? This whole idea, I think what we're hearing you say for the first thing is to define it, because too many times we assume it in our heads, but we don't explicitly communicate what it actually means in practice to be excellent in whatever context you're working in. Huh? All right, so that's number 1, define it. Okay. So what's your second?
So number 2, be excellent yourself.
Sing it.
And I cannot underscore that enough. It starts with you as a leader. It starts with you as a leader, that if you are, I remember right now, you know, but I'm working on my doctorate. And this is the topic that I am actually dealing with for my thesis. I was interviewing a CEO, and I remember him saying he owns one of the fuel stations. It's a set of fuel stations in Ghana. And he said that he doesn't measure himself against other CEOs in Ghana. He wants to know that as a CEO, if there was ever a prize being given away for the best CEOs in the world, he should be able to be there. And that's the whole point about we need to be excellent for ourselves. We need to live the talk that we are talking. We need to walk that talk. And too many times we say it to people, but we don't live it. We tell people, come to work at 8:30 or come to work 30 minutes before. We are walking in 30 minutes after the hour. We're not living what we're saying. And then we still want them to be excellent. So number 2 is be excellent yourself. Should I continue?
Oh, I mean, I love it. It's like it means be the example, okay? Be
Yes.
the example. You
Yeah.
can't lead a whole company and then you do something different from what you're saying. Definitely the people working with you, they will never buy into the whole idea or the whole vision of the company if you're not doing it yourself first. They look up to you and then they see the direction and then they follow. I love it. Love it. Go ahead with the number 3.
Absolutely, Muriel.
Yeah.
Because I mean, really, you cannot expect from others what you are not willing to do yourself. That's what it is. So number 3 is that you should know that as a leader, you cannot do it on your own. A culture, when you say culture of excellence, what a culture actually is, it is, let's define it as the predominant behavior of a group of people. It's not the predominant behavior of one, it is of a group of people. So if you want a culture of excellence, you have to bring your people along. And the best way to do that is to get them involved. Get them involved, because if you don't, it will kill your business. And the funny thing is that it's actually, I have a nice example. I'll share that for point number 4. So number 3 is really, you can't do it. Don't do it by yourself. So one of the things that we have done very quickly is that at work, we developed what we've called a standards project, where as a team, we sat down and we, like 120 plus of us, and we defined what does excellence look like for us. And we actually listed 5 behaviors, 5 things that the whole team, we voted and pruned and pruned and pruned and pruned it all the way down until we landed on 5 areas. Then we defined what behaviors looked like for each of those areas, how we would reward it, how we would punish it, all of those things. But what happens is everybody had to have a buy-in. And it was not about me, Gillian, saying, this is what excellence looks like, and this is what we're going to do. No, this one, everybody came on board. So that way, everybody knows they are a part. And if we're rewarding, they contributed to the rewards. If it's sanctions, they're the ones that came up with the sanctions, not me. So it's really, really important to do that. So
that was number 3 in terms of bringing others along. And thank you for giving us that concrete example, because I was about to ask you, so how do you bring people along, particularly if they don't have the same vision? So I think you've given us an example of how you can bring people along by helping them co-create what excellence actually looks like. That's one example of how, yeah. And maybe later, if you think of other ways that you can bring people along, that would be really useful.
The 4th one, very quickly, is one of the biggest, I would say, one of the biggest things that will challenge the culture of excellence is lack of accountability. So embedded in a culture of excellence is being able to hold people accountable to the standard that you have set. And, you know, you have people at all different levels. I'll give you a quick example. So there was a young lady that I hired as an intern on my team at one point. And I mean, she's young. She's not been in the working world too much, but anyway, she's trying. So she sends a message to us to say, or actually to one of my managers to say, this is Sunday. She sends a message to say, well, it's my birthday today and I'm going out to party and I'm going to be too tired to wake up and come to work early the next day. And so like she thought it was okay. It's not okay. So we told her right away, sorry, that's it. That behavior is absolutely unacceptable for us. It doesn't work. So the thing is, you have to be willing to hold people accountable. There was another person I remember who came in and we do probation for 6 months. He didn't even last 6 months. And we told him it's okay, go. Because as a leader, you make sure you help people. You try, so you don't get rid of people immediately. Try and give them chances. But if it's not working, you have to be willing to hold people to the standard that you have set, so that also those who are already operating at a certain standard will know that what you say that this is the standard is really the standard. Because if you drop it, if I show up at work early, somebody else shows up 2 hours late, we all get rewarded the same, treated the same, eventually I'll stop. So it's integrity. I spoke about the integrity cost earlier. That's how it comes in. You lose people, you lose trust if you can't hold people accountable. It's critical.
Yeah, because I feel like once you have, I feel like once you have also co-created that culture of excellence and everybody knows what's happening, and then once you set the targets, of course they have to be held accountable because they all know what's happening. And I feel like mediocrity is also a bit contagious, just like excellence. If everybody is doing whatever they want, they're going to drag the best down as well. The best is going to be frustrated and just, it's amazing, definitely.
I'll say though that it is in most African countries, realistically, it is easier said than done, because you have the situation where you hold somebody accountable. Their pastor comes to see you, their auntie comes to see you, the parents come and plead, Lillian, I see you, yes, that's it. So yes, you are trying, and they will push you to the wall because they will tell you that, oh, but just give them another chance, or oh, but they have children and they have this to do and that to do. So it's a struggle. It's not easy. It is not easy in this kind of culture to hold people accountable, but you have to do it. I had a guy who told me once, one of my team members said, oh, Gillian, you need to mother us. I was like, really? I have 3 children at home. I am not anybody else's mother. We are in the building. We need to work. So there are a lot of cultural nuances that make some of these things quite challenging. So I'm talking, but it is with full acknowledgement that it is not as easy as it would sound. There are challenges in trying to do this. So the last point before Taaka, I hand it back to you, is that it ties in. Be willing to get the wrong people off the bus, the whole bus. Guys, the bus. You cannot have a bus filled with people who are going nowhere. You have to be willing to get people off the bus who don't belong. And, don't belong, when I say don't belong, what it means is you can have somebody who is brilliant, but culturally, they are toxic. And they're killing the environment around you. Get rid of them. Again, it's not easy. And you will have to develop a thick skin. If you need support and you need help, you will have to get it. But if you keep them on the bus, guys, it will begin to just permeate, and it's like a gas that just starts to spread. and knocks everybody out as they're going. No, if you want that culture of excellence, it starts with you, and it starts with you holding everybody accountable after you are living what you have said you would live. That's it.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. No, Gillian, this has been so useful because you've been real, huh? You've talked about the real kinds of challenges one finds in creating a culture of excellence. So we've heard you. 5 key strategies: have a clear definition of what a culture of excellence looks like. Number 2, be excellent yourself. Number 3, recognize you can't do it on your own, bring others along. 4, hold people to account. And you notice as we keep going, we get to the harder and harder things. 4 is already hard. And 5th has to be one of the hardest things for a leader to do, not just in our African culture on the continent, but I think also for those who also work in the West, it's one of the hardest things you have to do as a manager, to get the wrong people off the bus. So thank you for leading, really opening up the conversation, and I think we can really open it up. Muriel, what do you say? Let me hand it back to you to open up to folks. So back to you, Muriel. Yeah. Thank you, Gillian.
Well, thank you, Gillian. This was very, I learned a lot, especially I love the topic of accountability and being the example, because I feel like you said, it's impossible to follow somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. So love it. So opening to the questions, I have a question here from Barbara. Barbara says, what are your thoughts in incorporating 360-degree reviews in our African and specifically Ghanaian culture, where age and title is such a sensitive thing?
Barbara, hi, Barbara. It is, for me, a 360-degree is so critical, even more so in cultures like this, where most leaders struggle to give that tough feedback to someone, especially if they're older. So a 360-degree actually is your out. Because when you have a 360-degree and the culture is such that within this culture, part of what will drive our excellence is we will get feedback from those above us, those beside us, and those below us. When it becomes a culture, it then is hard for, even if somebody has a bigger title than you or they're older than you, it's hard for them to take it personal because the feedback is from a broader group of people. So I find that helps, because really one of the big struggles is when you are younger and you're leading a team and some of the people on that team are older than you in a society where it is very age-based. We defer to people who are older than us, and they expect you to defer to them. Even if you have a higher title, they still believe that you should call them maybe uncle or this or that. And they expect that deference to them. So the 360, in my mind, is a really useful tool to be able to level the playing field and to remove any what people may think are personal biases that you may have. So it's something I recommend, and it's very, very simple to do. I know Busara does it for a number of different firms. So maybe whoever is interested, I will turn them over to Taaka. But at the simplest form, I think, and Taaka, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you get a pool of about 6 people to evaluate all the leaders. And it also helps, again, it makes everything more transparent. It helps hold us as leaders to a higher standard as well, that, hey, we can't just be always evaluating those below us and not directing it at us. So me, I am 100% for 360 degrees. And I know people run away from it here, but I am all for it.
I would echo you, Gillian, on that. And we certainly, as Busara, do offer to support organizations to conduct 360s. But we go further even, Gillian. We say 360 plus. 2 create a culture of feedback, because also the downside we have seen is when people are not used to giving feedback, they use 360s to penalize people, to get back at people because it's anonymized. Huh? That's also how we see. But if you have a culture, and this is why I love the conversation about culture, when you create a culture where people recognize that our bank, in our organization, in our company, we give feedback, it's immediate, it's responsive, and it's up, it's sideways, it's different directions. By the time they get a 360-degree feedback formally, they've already heard the feedback before. There are no surprises because people are regularly giving them that type of feedback. So that's what we call the 360 plus, the whole culture of feedback. But I love the question. And I noticed Betty has said something that we are a bit scared of what we may hear and therefore might not want to go in for the feedback. Yes, indeed. So you have to ease into it, huh? Because if you don't prepare people for it, they can misuse it. It's about people understanding the purpose of it so they're able to use it well. Huh?
And Taaka, the one thing I would just say on that is, Betty, you are right. Sometimes people are scared about it, but it doesn't always have to be linked to the timing of the performance review as well. It's something that can be introduced off performance review time so that people don't associate it with, okay, if I get bad feedback, then I'm going to lose my bonus or I'm going to do those things. Make people comfortable with it by first just setting it up and allowing it to generate a conversation. Then as there's more trust in the system, you can begin to move it closer and closer to performance review so that it becomes tied in with that. But it doesn't always have to be tied to the year end or the half year performance review.
I think that's a good one. Muriel, do you want to take the question from Annette? Do you want to read out Annette's question?
I think we had a question earlier about fostering a culture of accountability. So Gillian is asking, how do we foster a culture of accountability effectively and sustainably in an African culture where everyone says, why make enemies? And the bosses and elders are always right.
Lillian, you know, that's an interesting one. And I believe it starts with one person, where you need one person to be willing to take a stand and to say right is right and wrong is wrong, whatever the consequences. I always believe that change doesn't necessarily start at the top of a company. You need one person who doesn't necessarily even have a title, but who has the strength and the courage to say, this thing that happened is not right. Sometimes, and it may be, you may be on this call and you are someone who is already at a senior leadership level, and you are needing to hold somebody above you who could even be the CEO of the organization accountable. Most people, yes, will shy away from it and say, well, you know, I have school fees to pay, I have kids to feed, I have all of these things to do, so let me just stay in my corner. And that is what most people do. And staying in your corner equals mediocrity. You can't get to excellence if you are stuck in your corner or you are willing to close your eyes and let things pass. So for me, somebody has to be willing to step up. And that somebody who is willing to step up doesn't always have to have a big title in order to do that. And once it starts, then I believe that it can begin to grow and other people can begin to see that, hey, this person spoke up, they didn't get fired, they didn't get something else. And so it begins to spread and spread and spread. But I always believe things like this start with one person. And then
I love that, Gillian. I love that, because you're affirming how we define leadership. It's not having a title, but it's that ability to influence. So that I echo that. Huh? There's a question from Annette about what do you do? And folks, you have to just use the chat. We also want to hear your voices, so you can always just raise your hand and come on in. Annette is asking, what do you do when heads of departments are not mentoring their juniors? Should we get them off the bus?
The heads of departments.
Huh? Yes, and we've seen that before, huh? Where they themselves are good. Huh? She's like, they're good, but they are not, they're failing those who are below them.
So, these are some very interesting questions.
Yes.
And yes, you know, but let me actually say it this way. Mentoring is a two-way street. And so, yes, heads of departments should mentor or coach those that are below them. But you also, as an individual, cannot afford to sit down and say, because they didn't mentor me, I have remained unmentored and I'm not growing. It is critical that you take ownership and you encourage your team to take ownership of their own development. So if I take myself as an example, all along I've had bosses who we talk, we have good conversations and everything, but as for my development, I will take it wherever I can get it. So if the boss doesn't want to give it to me, no problem. I'm getting it elsewhere because it's me I'm talking about. It's my personal growth that I'm talking about. Ultimately, I am responsible for that. And so if I say, and I believe that one day I will be a leader of others, then let me learn how to embrace learning myself and develop it myself without waiting for a boss to do it. So it's, Annette, in that case, you may not be able to get the boss off the bus for just not mentoring. Unless they're real, it's really, really impacting something in a tangible way that they can be held accountable for that. But I would say mentor or no mentoring, go and get it yourself and encourage your team to, because guys, the other thing very, very quickly is that mentoring now doesn't only rely on the person in front of you. We have YouTube. So we've got videos. There's so many sources of information that's available to make you grow, that if the boss doesn't feel like, there's still so much that you can do. So that one is not really a bus matter in my mind. But it's a deficiency on their part, but it is not an excuse for you not to do what you need to do.
Uriel, I wonder whether we could have Lillian come in, and then I saw questions from Marika and Barbara. If I can invite them to unmute to pose their questions, because I think behind their questions are good suggestions. So let's start with Lillian, and then I'll go to Marika. Lillian.
Thanks, Taaka. So I really appreciate you saying, Gillian, that you know, it takes one person, because in our family, Taaka's my cousin, we know that we are groomed and raised to be that person. And you do not come home and say, I did not take a stand. You do not come home and complain about the problem. What did you do about it? And what are you going to do about it? And how are you going to be the agent of change? They don't want to hear anything else. And so, but the thing is that you learn from what we learned from watching them, that it is a long haul process. But then, you know, you come in, because I'm 36, you know, so I'm still sort of, I'm well along in my career. So I know that, you know, it takes that time, but I learned that from watching them. But then when you're in it, and, you know, it's not your family's company, it's the government, it's this, you know, society, then it's like, wait a second, maybe I don't have kids and I don't have those like liabilities that people are, you know, people are using as excuses. So I have even less of an excuse. But the isolation, the standing up for people that will come and complain to you and offload to you their manifold problems that they don't want to stand up for. And then you're giving them suggestions to say, okay, this is how you can go to HR, this is how you can phrase it. No, all right, because they want you to talk. And then they want you to be the Judas that gets beat for them. and then they want to come and stand in front of you, in front of the boss and say, oh, you know, boss lady, I'm so sorry, you know, I understand and we'll do everything you say after they have complained behind the boss's back to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have to recognize that they're worth fighting for anyway. They're worth fighting for anyway, because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for the institution, because that's the loyalty. That is where you owe your loyalty, is to the truth and to the institution. Because if you sit there and wait for people to stand up for you, they will stab you 360, and that would be your 360 feedback.
Thank you, Lillian.
You know, it's true,
Marika,
and it's well said.
Yes, thank you, Lillian. Let me have Marika come in, and then I think it was Barbara also had a comment. Marika, why don't you come on in?
Hi, hello. It's great to be here. It's my second time now. Last time I just listened, but now I really would like to come in because this is very inspiring. Thank you very much. What I liked especially about the point you raised is that you said this thing about co-creating what the definition of excellence, what is it really, and getting everybody involved. And what I have done sometimes when I was a manager, I formed intervision groups. So there were small groups of colleagues, and it was voluntary. But there was an occasion where they could be in a group together, also to exchange some things, some problems, maybe some challenges they encountered. So I was wondering, what do you think of such a strategy, also to make it a common thing for everyone in the organization?
Taaka, we're in this together. So
yes,
you can...
I was going to say absolutely. You know what I love about the idea, Marika, is that depending on your organization and the level that people feel safe to speak, you will need different methodologies. Huh? And so I think what you're sharing with us, this intervention group, is a wonderful one where if people are concerned that if they're like Lillian, who raises her hand and then gets shot down, huh? They may feel that, okay, I don't want to be the lone person, but if there is this smaller group in which there is an effort made to create safety, then that might be even a better place. And what I love about that then, it can also be a good foundation to then do the 360. Because then again, the feedback, you're starting to provide it so that when the manager finally gets it, it's not like, where did that come from? But actually there has been space created along the way for that. So I absolutely, I like that idea. Thank you.
I would just add to that I think a couple things that you would want to have happen with a group like that is, one, you want to define the purpose of the group or the end goal of the group, in the sense that if you are not careful, people will come into the group and then it will just become a complaining session and everybody is downloading. So somewhere in there has to be a plan for how do we effect change from the challenges that we have. And it may be that the company, the broader company, knows there's this group and somebody appoints, they can volunteer to be the spokesperson on behalf of the group. But there has to be a channel for issues that are raised and challenges that are raised to then make their way to where they can be resolved. So people feel like there's also a positive end, because if not, then the group itself will become branded negatively as just a group of people who are griping and complaining. So there just has to be a path towards getting the information shared without necessarily saying person A said it or person B, but it's reflective of a group of people, and then making sure that now there's action from whatever your group shares. Then I think you'll find more people and more people will get on board, because then they will see that, hey, if I bring my issues to this group, it's being dealt with and tabled on our behalf. And it can really become an effective tool in the organization.
Yes.
So it's good.
I totally agree with you. But and another thing I think that can be important in these groups, that people get used to support each other and to so that will also help to make a nice culture in an organization. But I absolutely agree with you. You should be careful not to make it a complaining group only, because that's very negative. Yes.
Thank you, Marika.
And
Muriel?
so what,
sorry.
just to say what the point Lillian raised earlier is what can happen from a group like this, where, you know, you volunteer, you're the outspoken one, so people keep coming to you. And if you're not careful, you then become labeled as somebody who always has issues, because you take everything of the group and put it on your head. But I think with it's Marika, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
With your suggestion, I think it's a good balance for the two things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Muriel, who shall we go to next?
Okay, well, Barbara, would you like to ask your question, or shall I read it?
She has about two. She has no, let her unmute and come in, because she has a lot, and I think she has brilliant ideas. I know you, Barbara. Barbara, come on in.
Come on, Barbara.
Do we hear her? I think Barbara's raising the important question first about this culture of excellence in remote working. Huh? Yes, Barbara, we're waiting for you to unmute. And you know, one of the things I would say is particularly in the context of remote working, if you are not careful because you are not with people constantly, it's quite easy to see it slip, where people start to do their own thing. So Gillian, I know for a while at DataBank, and even maybe now, folks were working remotely. Are there some specific things you were doing to ensure you were able to maintain this standard of excellence, this culture of excellence?
So even this standards project that I spoke about earlier, this happened. We've been working remotely for the last 2 years, largely. And this has happened while we're in this remote setting. So some of the things that we have done, for example, a very simple thing is punctuality. So excellence is one of the standards. And we've broken it down where a sub behavior from that is punctuality. So if it's a virtual meeting, you have to be there minimum 5 minutes before the meeting starts. If it's a physical meeting, you have to be there 15 minutes before it starts. So we set standards for virtually the new way that we are working, so that it also brings into account some of that. But it's in the remote environment is way more difficult because you're not seeing people. And you're trusting that people will get things done and done well. So it's about now even tweaking the way you measure people and looking at the results. It's not necessarily did the person work 8 to 5. That's out the window. But it's how well did they deliver on the results? And, you know, and how many times did it take for them to do that? How are they still learning in this remote environment? So you still hold them accountable, but the measurements for each of those things changes slightly to accommodate the remote working environment.
Okay. I think the other factor she's raising that's closely tied to what Lillian raised is the risk involved in being excellent when you're not necessarily at the top. And she's bringing up the fact, and I have seen this in instances, where somebody is practicing excellence, they're working on that with their team, but their boss is highly threatened by it. And you know, it's the same thing that Lillian is bringing up. And I always say in some of our organizational cultures, you have to work in a way that you protect yourself. And the way I believe you protect yourself is with excellence, actually. Because with excellence, you become so incredibly invaluable to your organization that even when your boss is trying to undermine you, when people are saying this and this, people are like, well, actually, that's not how I know Taaka. And actually, she delivers a lot. If you start to push her off to the side, you marginalize, then we will suffer. So I think, Barbara, it is to acknowledge, and to Lillian, we acknowledge that if you're not sitting at the top, it is not without risks. And even when you're at the top and holding people accountable, again, there is pushback. All of this doesn't mean that it's an easy ride, but it's doing things where you do become invaluable. So your competence, your excellence, your integrity, all of those start to somewhat reduce the negative impacts that go with it. I could see, I know we're almost at the top of the hour. This has just been
There's
so juicy.
something
Gillian?
from Patience. I'm not sure if
It's
Patience. There was,
it was
how do we avoid the team members
Yeah.
flocking in? And she was saying, can you use a comments box, for instance? So I guess bringing up the fact that sometimes you may have to use a variety of means. And Patience would say, yes, spot on for that one. So yes, you can have an open door. Yeah, you can have other ways. There was a final one down there from, is it Margaret?
Margaret, yes. Yes, she's
Gillian,
asking how can an organization create a culture of excellence, especially on the leadership team, so it can descend downwards, and how do you create a safe environment where staff can also hold leadership accountable without
Nice
fear
one.
of favor?
Nice
So,
one.
It's not easy because oftentimes in a leadership team, you have some who are happy to just float along, and then you have some leaders who are on the ball and trying to do things. For me personally, my approach to that is it starts with me. So if we're a leadership team of 10 or 12 or 15 and everybody else is floating, as for me and my team, we will hold ourselves to a certain standard. When we set that standard, I believe that eventually it will challenge people to come along. But even if it doesn't, it is okay to be excellent where you are. And it is because I always think that, and the way even when I look at my team and the work that I do with them and how I push them really hard sometimes, it's because I always say, anybody who passes through my team, when they leave, they should be able to leave the shores of Ghana and go anywhere and work, and they fit in perfectly. There is no such thing as they're working to a local standard or something. No, we must hold ourselves to a global standard. And so if other leaders don't want to come along, you can't control the behavior of others. All you can do is make sure that people know that as for you, when you step into this space, it is different. And you will not be able to slack off if, even if 10 other people are doing it, you won't. So you set the standard. And one day, Margaret, one day, I believe that you will be given that opportunity where you can then begin to influence a broader group of people and set the tone for an entire leadership team and not just your leadership team. So
what a best way to end. It starts with self. Gillian, you've been absolutely amazing. And for folks who have joined us today, thank you so much for your questions, your engagement. Let me hand over to Muriel to close us out.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gillian. Thank you for everything you shared. Yeah, it was amazing. Thank you for your active participation, everyone. This is amazing. So as you know, we do this every last Friday of the month. So our next leadership session is on the last Friday of March, and that's on the 1st of April. So we just, it's
we do a slight change that day.
A slight change.
April 1st.
And then we hope to see you there. So please put that in your calendar. Don't forget 4 p.m. GMT every last Friday of the month. So I will give you a moment to put that in your calendar. And also, if you're new here, because I see a lot of new faces, I'm so excited to see. Please join our leadership tribe, an excellent tribe of leaders where we share bi-weekly leadership tips to guide you to become the best leader. You know, so I'll put, Lydia, if you can please put again the link to join our leadership tribe in the chat. So you can click on the link, please. And next time, if you've enjoyed what we shared today, next time, please bring a friend or a colleague. that would also benefit from all the good things that we share and all the amazing tips that we share. So please bring someone with you so we can become a bigger and bigger community. So any final comments, Taaka?
A photo, yes, our
A
quick photo. Yes, so folks, if you're new, what we normally do is we just open up your thing and your video and just quickly, we'll take a quick photo. And Apolline, if you can do the screenshot, or Lydia, just do the screenshot for us. Just turn on your cameras, give us that Friday smile. Yes, we're seeing you all.
Yes.
Yay. Vincent, everybody. Okay, photo. Yay, fantastic. So thank you all. See you next time. Gillian,
Thank you.
You've been amazing. Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you all. Bye.
See you next time.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.